in this segment, we're going to look at self-perception phenomena, a number of them. Have you ever been in a noisy environment, perhaps a party, with a drink in one hand hors d'oeuvre in another, surrounded by loud music and chatter, and still managed to hear someone across the room mention your name? The cocktail party effect is a tendency of people to have their attention drawn to self-relevant stimuli. Self is the most important object of our own attention. It captures, peaks, and holds our attention better than any other topic. The cocktail party effect. So when I was an undergrad, I worked in a sleep lab, very interesting and very fun work. And when people are in stage 1 of sleep, stage 1 is very light kind of sleep, right? It was so easy for me to wake them up. All I would have to do is whisper in the microphone their name, guaranteed. Not any other word, but their name would do it, right? The cocktail party effect. The looking glass self reflects the fact that our self-images are largely a product of how others see us. Now, people might vary by how many others' opinions matter to them, but even the person you think is least vulnerable to others' opinions of them are still vulnerable to the opinions of those they do care about. In a very cute study that we're going to call the toy study, kids who were labeled and praised for being kind and helpful were more likely than kids who were not to anonymously donate their experimental prize toys to other children. They really did. Pretty cool, huh? Humans learn to recognize themselves between 18 and 24 months generally. Self-recognition, that is called, right? Between 18 and 24 months. But is this uniquely human? Clearly, many animals are afraid of or want to play with the animal in the mirror. Afraid of or want to play with it, though, indicates that they do not recognize that it's a reflection of themselves. They think it's another animal. Often, over time, they learn to ignore the other animal in the mirror, but this doesn't evidence recognition either. Researchers must look for interactive evidence, so moving your own body in self-recognition. Now, elephants will move their own trunk up to inspect their mouth in the mirror, and chimps will groom themselves in a mirror. So far, self-recognition has only been found with humans and certain intelligent species. These include dolphins, elephants, and great apes. That would be chimps, gorillas, and orangutans, of course. What about self-awareness? When are we aware of ourselves? Self-focus, the object of our own attention. Some examples are when we are in front of a mirror or an audience or a camera, when we watch ourselves on video, or when we behave in a conspicuous manner, right? So you see that all the time. When people behave in a conspicuous manner, they'll suddenly look around them, right? Does self-reflection tend to be negative? Like when we look in the mirror and only tend to see every blemish or imperfection? Yes. The negativity study shows that we tend to compare ourselves to standards, higher standards than reality. So we tend to feel we fall short and experience reductions in self-esteem and in mood. So we regularly fall short when we become self-aware. And there are two main ways of coping with this. Two main ways of coping. One is behaving better, and the other way is escaping or withdrawing from self-awareness. I like to think of it as the two strategies, as we tend to shape up or ship out. Shape up, behave better, or ship out, escape. In other words, stop being self-aware. Here's an example, the shaping up option. In the Halloween study, researchers stood outside of one of their homes on Halloween night and sent kids who were trick-or-treating into the foyer to get their candy bar from a bowl. And there was a sign by the bowl that said, "Take just one, please." But they were alone, right? A large mirror was placed behind the candy bowl on the table when half of the kids took their candy. It was removed when the other half did. Which kids do you think took significantly more candy? Those who could not see themselves in the mirror, of course. So seeing yourself in the mirror promotes a kind of conscience, right? Self-awareness, shape up. The spotlight effect is a tendency we have to overestimate the extent to which others are paying attention to what we are wearing, what we are saying, how we are behaving, etc. In the uncool t-shirt study, participants were asked to wear a t-shirt bearing a picture of an outdated and decidedly uncool Barry Manilow, and then enter a room where others were working. They greatly overestimated the percentage of workers who noticed. They estimated 50% when in reality 25% did. Generally, people are more involved with their own impression management to pay as much attention as you might suppose to you. Here's a great example of the spotlight effect. A movie titled Lonely Guys, starring Steve Martin, shows a great example of the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is a tendency we have to significantly overestimate the extent to which others are paying attention to us. In this scene, Larry asks for a table for one at a restaurant. What follows depicts not what really happens, but how it is perceived by Larry.
Yes. Are you have a table for dinner? Yes.
How many in the car?
I'm alone.
Alone? Follow me, sir. This way, sir.
Thank you.
Would you care for a cocktail, sir?
Yes, I'd like a Vodka and Tonic.
A tuck and run?
Yes.
Very good, sir.
Oh, and Captain, could you turn out the spotlight, please?
Certainly.
And could everybody go back to talking?
Certainly.
Okay, you can only imagine how delighted we social psychologists were when this movie came out. Not because it's a very good movie, by the way, it's not, but it's this beautiful example of the spotlight effect in social psychology. So now we've reviewed a number of different self-perception phenomena. Here's a great review question. Which of the above effects would public speaking be expected to most increase? So public speaking, right? Meaning if somebody handed the microphone to you, which two of these effects would you guess to increase the most? What do you think? And the answer is self-awareness and the spotlight effect.